Alrighty, hello and welcome to the Team Conti Sim Performance NASCAR 25 track guide. This is the Cup car at Circuit of the Americas, or as we like to say, COTA. This is going to be the first track guide that I do for this game, where we're actually going to break down a lap and really deep dive into everything you need to do to be fast, successful over a lap here at COTA. Lots of corners. This layout is very unique in the sense that it was actually never run in the Cup Series. It's the old, I believe, West layout that iRacing and its NASCAR Cup Series ran here earlier this year, and it's made its way into the game. So very unique, very different. So probably not a whole lot of resources out there on how to tackle this place. So I'm happy to bring you guys this track guide. And what we'll be looking at is a lap of me racing around COTA at speed. And I'll go ahead and I'll break it down. We'll pause in different spots, identify the corner numbers and things, and just talk about, where am I turning in? Where am I lifting? Where am I braking? How much brake am I trying to use? A lot of this stuff is going to be a guesstimation because we don't have throttle or brake indicators. I don't have a steering trace to look at as I'm reviewing this replay to really understand how much wheel I'm using, but in having done many laps at COTA across both sim and game at this point, I think I can relay it pretty well, even in the absence of some pretty basic telemetry stuff. But anyway, without further ado, we'll play this on here. Again, this is going to be one lap, and it'll be probably a pretty long video because we've got 17 corners to cover. So let's not waste any more time and let's get to it. So coming out of the pits here, maybe some of you find this important, maybe not. TJ, the spotter, always says keep within your blend line or something to that effect. And what he's talking about is this pit out blend line right here, which separates the pit exit from the racing surface. You can cross that line and not receive a penalty. Now, I've tried that in practice and qualifying. I'm not sure if it'll trigger something in the race, but I don't believe that's implemented in the game. So pretty small. I don't think it's of any great significance, but just a tidbit. You can cross over what the spotter calls the blend line and not be penalized. Whereas if you're an iRacer, you would know if you do that, you get an automatic black flag. So here we are in the run up to turn one. I'm letting all of the AI cars pass so I can get some clean track. And that's what you'll want to do in qualifying as well. It's group qualifying at the road courses, so you don't have the track to yourself. So make sure you leave a bit of a gap. We're exiting turn one right here. We're going to come down into the S's. And on this out lap, I'll just mainly identify corners so that when we get to them on the hot lap, you know what I'm talking about when I say 1, 2, 3, etc. So that was 2 right there. Then we've got 3, then 4, then 5. And we come around here and we get into this like 6, 7, 8, 9 complex. This is the west section, the cut through. And as small of a portion of the track as it is, it makes a huge difference in lap times. We'll definitely cover that quite a bit. Got 10 right there, up into this really tight and windy section of 11, 12, and 13. Here's 11, 12, and then a big sort of double apex, almost triple apex going on here. And right here, I'll pause and I'll mention this right off the bat because I'm sure a lot of you are wondering if you've watched videos or if you're racing NASCAR 25, what track runoff can I actually use without getting a slowdown penalty, which in this game is your car is literally brought to a stop and you sit there for, feels like forever, maybe 4 or 5 seconds. So we'll go over which parts of the track you can use as runoff and which parts of the track you cannot use right off the bat here. As you can see, exit of 13, you can use all of this pavement out here. It is open for utilization. And really, you want to get all the way under that pavement and use that exit runoff because it allows you to carry more apex speed. You can throttle up earlier. And the biggest thing is that you want to get over this paint right here. I think my webcam is covering my mouse, but if you follow my mouse up here, this green painted surface, anywhere you see that on this track, very slippery. So you don't want to like hang a left or a right side tire on it for too long because you're just going to spin it up and you're not going to go anywhere. So if you're planning on using runoff off of 13, make sure you're getting all the way to the outside of the green paint onto the non-painted asphalt and really utilize that on your way down into 14 and 15. Big sweeping right-hander right here. And with this next gen, it's really easy to get it on the left rear right there and start to slip. And you've got a very small window before you get over the limit. To 16, this is a super tricky corner because of track limits. We'll talk about that more on the hot lap. And then into 17. So this is your build-up. This is how you're building speed to start your hot lap. Right there, you want to get as straight of an exit as possible. Utilize the track to the right. And now we're going to come down this long front stretch, huge elevation change up into turn 1. Now right here, as we approach turn 1, as you can tell, this is a fairly blind corner. The only reason we kind of understand where the apex is at this point is because we've got a reference car up here to use. But if you're on a qualifying lap, or if you're in a race and you're either leading or you've got nobody within your line of sight, trying to find the apex in turn 1 is probably the most challenging thing on the Cup schedule to do. Probably the most challenging corner on the Cup schedule, maybe second to like the Chicago Street Course and some of those turns. Super difficult. Now, to make it easier, a lot of people just kind of cheat this corner, and they'll just make a straight beeline from curb to apex curb and just shortcut the corner, park the center, and get across the hill, but not really carry any speed in doing so. By beelining from this curb over here to the apex curb in turn 1, you're definitely giving yourself a better chance of just simply making the corner and not blowing the apex. But you're going to have to slow down so much at the apex because you've got no angle that you're going to lose a ton of time center off. So the best approach into turn 1 is to really stay as tight to this curb as possible, as long as possible. And I'll play this forward a bit here. And even before we start to pull off the curb, we're going to be braking, we're going to be decelerating. We're going to be doing all of that while I'm still tight to this curb. So let's play it forward a bit. So you could see right, maybe like 2 or 3 feet before that, you could hear in the motor, you can see the RPM drop. I'm already starting to decel. So let's go back just a little bit. Right there. So I'm already decelerating, so I pass the pit wall, and maybe a car length or so after that, I start to brake. Heavy, heavy brake. Again, don't know what percentage I'm using, but my foot is basically to the floor. I've got a lot of brake bias pulled out of it, so I don't lock up the front tires because that is super easy to do into one. So I'm braking as hard as I can, and you'll see I was in 5th gear down the front stretch. I'm gonna go all the way down here. So we're gonna go 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st. And now I am still not to the apex curb. A lot of people, like I said, they come in, right? See my mouse, and their left front will basically be here when they go to make this turn. And what is that going to do? That's going to pinch off your ability to make the apex, and you're just going to be flung out to the right side of the track. Track limits off of 1 aren't as stringent as some other places on this track, but it is an off camber exit. So if you get too far out to the right, it just feels like you're falling off the face of the earth. So looking at this again, we want to hang this thing out as long as possible, following this curbing. So here's a nice reference point. This is the pit out line right here. The pit exit cone is right there. Just past that line is when I start to pull it off the curb. And it's not a whole lot of wheel at first. We'll have a lot of wheel into it at the apex, like hand over hand, everything I got to make the corner. But just a little bit of wheel to coax it off the right side of the track. And then as I get down into the apex here, I'll back it up just a little bit again. As I get down into the apex, I want to have my car positioned so that I'm continuing to point to the left. I don't want a straight car because that's going to send me onto the right side of the track and I'm going to lose a bunch of time. I want to be as close to this curb as possible, still pointing to the left. Now, as you can tell, I missed this apex a little bit. So it was by no means a perfect lap, but that's hard to do here. But even with missing that apex, I still had some really good rotation. And as you'll see here as I play this forward, I'm going to be able to really throttle down off of this corner, straighten my wheel out, and make a nice launch without being too far to the right or having too much wheel into it and slipping the rears. And plus I can carry some good apex speed as well because I've got nice angle. And you can hear right there, hard on the throttle, straight off of turn 1 on my approach down to 2. Now I'm in second gear. And now I'm going to go into the S's, and the first S is to the right, so naturally I want to bring the car as far left as possible, so I can then set up for the right. I want to extend my angle of attack, so I can make the apex of 2 with as much speed and turn as possible. So second, third, all the way out to the left, and now I'm not going to, I can go full throttle through here, but I might just lift a little bit just to make sure that I don't get thrown too far to the left, because the next S is going to be to the left. So I still want to stay somewhat tight to the right, but I want to carry a lot of throttle down here. Possible to carry full throttle if you set up your entry well, but for those of us who maybe are new to COTA, new to NASCAR gaming, or just not as comfortable, you can take a little bit of throttle out of it just to make sure you ensure that you make the corner. A lot of words just to say, be aggressive, but don't step over the line. Just watch where you're placing your car. So tight to the curb to the right, and again, this is turn 2, fourth gear. Now, my car naturally wants to go back to the left as I cross turn 2. So in understanding that the next corner is to the left, I have to think ahead again and say, okay, all right, got to get my car back to the right. So I'm going to do that. I'm not going to go all the way to the right because these are decreasing radius corners, which means that the first S is the most wide sweeping corner, which is why it allows us to carry basically full throttle. The next S to the left is a slightly tighter turn. Then the next one to the right is slightly tighter, and it just keeps going and going. So for this one, with the speed I'm carrying, with what I'm trying to do, because the next S comes fairly quickly, I'm almost attempting to straight line 3 and 4 versus have a wide sweeping entry. Either way, I'm going to have to get way out of the throttle and kill a bunch of speed here. So that wide sweeping entry is just going to cost me lap time because I'm just making the track longer. So I'm going to straight line into 3 here. Now I'm off the throttle a bit. You can hear it right there, off the throttle, a bit of brake. Cross turn 3, down to third gear. So you've got this really quick downshift between turn 3 and 4 where you're going from fourth gear to third. Watch that because it can unsettle the rear. We're going to go into turn 4 now. And let me back this up a little bit. And back it up just a smidge more. We'll go right there. As you can see, as we're crossing past these here, and you'll see it again on this left side, we've got some really aggressive orange turtles. You do not want to hit those. It'll put the thing up on 2 wheels and you'll be dead. Also, you cannot cut any part of these S's. So maybe you watched the Cup race earlier this year and you saw guys like running way into the paint in certain parts of the S's. You cannot do that. You will get a slowdown. So just make sure you stay within the track limits in the S's. Stay as tight to these turtles as possible, but do not hit them because you will go for a ride. Now again, we're still in third gear. We're approaching turn 5 right here. And you can see now I've really slowed my speed down. 91 miles an hour at the apex of 5 versus the apex of 2 that was 115. So 115 in my first S, again the most sweeping corner. Call it 117, 18 in my second S. Probably about 101 or 2 in my third S. And then down to 90 miles an hour pretty much at the apex of the final legit part of the S's. And I say legit because now we're going to have this big turn off into the west section of the track. The S's are going to continue to the right, but we're not going to use those. So here's where it gets tricky. So now we're coming out of the S's. We're continuing to decrease our speed. We have one more turtle to deal with right here. I'm not sure. Maybe they consider this 6. I feel like 6 is over here. I don't know. All the track maps are different, but this is the end of the S's. I can guarantee that. And I can guarantee that I just clicked the wrong button, so good job there. Let's let's go back through. Here we go. There we go. Right here. So we'll play the S's again. And now right here, okay, so this is where we're going to cut into the west section of the track. And I really have to be deliberate with how I set up this first left right here, because this is make it or break it as far as tenths intensive lap time. So big break right here, a big turn of wheel to really get the thing transferred back to the left and to get it turned into 6. Now right here, very, very easy to cut the track and get a slowdown. You can get your left sides in this darker colored, sort of rubbered in red right here. But if you go into the freshly painted red or the blue, slow down, can't do it. So watch out for that. Third gear on the approach in. Again, a lot of brake, just really trying to sail the car in there. Big tug of wheel to get it back over to the left. And you can see third gear, and I'm purposely keeping the car to the left off of that corner. Now I can let it track out to the right and carry a little bit more speed, but you'll see right here I've got this quick left, right, left deal. I want to be as close to the middle of the track as possible so I can straight line this little whoop-de-doo thing right here as well, which would be 7, 8, 9. So through here in third. Now again, cannot cut. So I can put a little bit of my left sides in this fresh red. I cannot go like whole car into the red. I will get a slowdown. Same thing with this right here. Can use a little bit of it, can't use a lot. Now 9, which dumps us back onto the Grand Prix circuit, you can cut that whole thing. For whatever reason, we don't have track limits there. So I want to cut a little bit, I want to cut a little bit, I want to cut all of it, and I'm going to set up my approach so I can maximize that. Now you can see I throttled up through 7. As I'm going through 8 right here, I'm back on the brakes, I'm losing a little bit of speed, and see how my car is pointed? Straight to the apex of turn 9. I want my left sides just to clip this grass so I can then get as much speed as possible off of turn 9 and on to the backstretch on my approach to 10. Right here you can see I'm going to use all of the interior red paint right here. Past the paint, plenty of speed, so I naturally get back to the right onto the backstretch. And I want to use as much of this right side of the track as possible. I said before, don't touch the green, it's bad. Yes, that's in the acceleration zones. But if you're in a decel zone, or if you're just in a neutral sort of rolling zone where grip isn't limited, both of which describe what we have here into 10, you want to maximize your track width as much as possible because this turn 10 is super sharp. So anything we can do to maximize our angle of attack is going to go a long way. So you'll see I'll start to coax the car back over to the right. And there you go. I'm going to start braking at this white perpendicular line right here. And as I'm braking, I'm going to be as tight to the grass as possible, down to first gear, and just want to clip that inside curb as I go through turn 10. Brake, second. I kept it in second that time. Okay, so no first gear, so second that time, probably to minimize wheel spin. You've got the option there. You can go first, you can go second. Second might be a little bit safer, especially on old tires. And now, like I showed in turn 13, you can utilize all of this runoff out here. Jury is out, in my opinion, on whether or not that's actually faster. I feel like I was setting good lap times by keeping it on the track. But you can use this. So if you're racing and let's say you're trying to defend and you're on the outside going into 10, you can use this runoff and try to beat the guy down into turn 11. You can do what you need to do. This is not going to yield a slowdown, but I think as far as outright lap time, I would say keep it on the track here. So we're going through turn 10. We're in second gear. Back to the left because we've got a very tight right, hard brake. Still second all the way through here. Lots of partial throttle. Now right here, I want to straight line this as much as possible. I've got to watch for my throttle input because if I use too much, I'm going to slip the rear and I'm going to be a mess through 12 and 13. Talking about track limits, again, right side tires can go in this rubbered in red portion. You cannot go all the way over. You will get a slowdown. So second gear through here, straighten it out. And right here, I want a straight approach past this first apex curb into turn 13. So I'm going to just be straight, heavy on the brake, drive the car out to the right, and then cut it back to the left and try to get to this apex curb in 13. Kind of hard to do. Car doesn't really want to do it, but if you can get to this apex curb, then that sets you up for a really nice exit of 13 where you can then utilize the runoff off that corner. Can I get to it? Got to it. A little tentative right there, but you can see using all that runoff. And then right here through 14, 15, third gear into fourth in the middle. Keep it tight to the right with a lot of partial throttle because we've got a really quick switch back to the left. As I go to the switch back to the left in 16, I want to, again, maximize the track width as much as possible. I will caveat that by saying getting all the way to the right on this green stuff, it feels like it's off camber a little bit. So I would be most comfortable just getting to the limits of the red and white curbing. But the biggest thing here is we want to slow down enough so that I can cut back to the left. And I want to shortcut this corner here in 16, but I don't want to shortcut it so much that I get a track limits penalty for the inside of 16. So you'll see here back into 16, just going over this orange turtle. This one's not as steep, so that one's okay to run over. And now right here, this is so tricky because if you get any farther out than this, it seems like, or if you do it a bit earlier in the exit, track limits penalty, your whole lap's killed, you're stopped, and you're dead in the water. So you can put a little bit of your right sides over the screen, but I would not recommend flirting with that too often because if it catches you out, it's going to ruin your lap, ruin your race, etc., etc. So we'll finish the lap right here, turn 17, using all of the green on the right to extend my angle of attack, and then coming to finish the lap at a 134.42. So that's a fairly in-depth look. I would say more than fairly. That's pretty extensive on how to get around COTA in NASCAR 25 in the Cup car. We do this kind of content for our iRacing base, and I'm curious to hear, as a NASCAR 25 gamer, do you like this sort of content? Do you want us to go this in-depth in how to just get around a track by yourself? Do you like that, or is there something else you'd like to see? So we're all still kind of new to this ourselves, so please understand we welcome all feedback. So comment and let us know what you're looking for. If you like this sort of video, give us a like, subscribe, and tell us that as well. Really goes a long way in helping us grow the channel. But that's it. That is 23 minutes that I hope you'll find valuable. Again, this is Michael Conti at Team Conti Sim Performance. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.